Welcome back to Let's Cook. Against my better judgment, I bought some frozen pierogies. And while the pierogies themselves were meh, what actually garnered my interest, I guess, is what's on the back. General Tso's Pierogis. My first thought upon hearing that name and that combination is like terrible fusion cuisine, like barbecue flavored sushi or anything else that comes to mind. But like giving it actual like critical thought, it shouldn't be that bad because pierogies themselves are kind of a filler. They tend to be a bit starchy, bland, but they're also like my heritage. So I thought, let's try making some, but not with these. We're gonna be using actual ingredients. This pierogi recipe's actually become kind of like a family recipe. So I actually learned during my undergrad career where one of the dining hall chefs taught me how to make pierogies. And it's actually pretty easy, and the formula is really simple to remember because it goes 3, 2, 1, let's jam. Which means 3 cups of flour, 2 eggs, 1 cup of sour cream, and half a teaspoon of salt. And I feel like the one thing that kind of separates this from a bog standard pasta dough is the presence of the sour cream. So don't skip it. I need to get a cup measure. I really didn't get anything ready ahead of time for this episode. So we have our 3 cups of flour. You can also do this in like the traditional pasta way using just the countertop, but I'm not that good at making pasta, so I find it easier to use the bowl for a little bit of control. Make a little well. I'm not sure if you actually see well enough from there. So as I was saying, you want to make a little well in the flour, and then take 2 eggs. And if I accidentally got any shell in there, well, that's my fault. I'll have to deal with it later. And then our half a teaspoon of salt, and our 1 cup of sour cream. I hope actually this is enough sour cream. Always have a spatula nearby. Still haven't learned that from myself. And our 1 cup of sour cream. Try to get as much of it out as you can. It's valuable stuff. And you could go mixing this with like your fingers, like an old grandmother would, but I'd rather keep things simple and clean. It's the way that you're making me feel tonight. It's hard to let it go. So instead, I like to mix this up with a fork, taking a little bit of flour from the sides, just like you would some pasta, I guess.
Slow as it goes.
I hope someone's finding this enthralling. Oh no, the cat sneezed. Yeah, you know, this is pretty boring. Let's turn the camera on something more interesting. Look, it's a cat. Sandra, do you want to say hello to the studio audience? And around this point, you're gonna have to go in with your hands because it's getting too tough to mix with the fork. With your clean, emphasis on clean, hands. No jewelry on, no rings, no watches, no fake nails. Luckily, I took off my fake nails before filming today. And what we want in the end is a ball that doesn't feel sticky anymore. It's like this isn't ready yet. Let me just look at that. Blah. And pretty soon I'd turn this on the countertop because the bowl's feeling a little restrictive. It's a labor of love. But hey, if you have kids, you can use them to do this manual labor. It's getting there. This is just something you learn how to feel over time. In fact, I've been making them for at least 3 plus 4 plus 2. You do the math on how many years that is. I'm not being paid to think. I'm not being paid at all. Here we go. This is kind of what you're looking for. Firm, barely sticky, in kind of all the spots. and it feels just right. Then this needs to chill in the fridge for an hour, which will give us enough time to A, wash our hands, and B, prepare our filling. And C, I really need to wash my hands. Now you can fill your pierogies with whatever you want, but I guess what's traditional are things like potato, usually like potato with cheese, either like cheddar or farmer's cheese, or some form of cabbage, or sauerkraut, prunes even, if you want that. Onions also very traditional. What I was going to do was do potato and sour cream, but I needed all the sour cream for the dough. So we have potato, and I also have way too many scallions. I bought them for the General Zhao's part of this episode, but for some reason, I ended up with like enough to do like a lightsaber duel with. So we're going to do potato and scallion filling, which has been determined by me right now. One potato that needs to be peeled. Let me see if I can magic up some peeling powers. Ta-da! And then we're going to boil the potatoes until fork tender and turn them into mash, which I don't think you really need to see. We'll see if I decide to show it. This is going to be kind of tough with the camera in the way, but I'm going to do it anyway for you guys. So we have our finished filling over here. We have an egg beaten for an egg wash, and we have our delightful pierogi dough. A deer. A female deer. And we're going to start by rolling this stuff out. Put down a little bit of flour. Maybe more flour. That's probably enough flour. And pierogies can be a little bit on the thicker side than something like pasta, like ravioli. Ravioli, give me the formuoli. I already told you the formuoli. So you should all be able to make this at home. I expect to see pierogies all over your Instagrams instead of sourdoughs, which I am also guilty of. Hey, I was making sourdough before it was cool. That episode was like 8 years old or something. Hey, the cat wants to help us roll out the dough. How nice of her. There's a camera in the way, and a cat at my feet. This would be a good challenge for Cutthroat Kitchen. Can you make pierogies while dealing with a feral cat at your feet? Cinder doesn't think I can do it. Oh my god, cat. Please. And now we are going to cut them into rounds. Normally I'd have a pastry cutter for this, or biscuit cutter. Couldn't find it. And this is also a little small. You want something kind of yay wide instead of yay wide if you're gonna make this at home. I'm not even sure if this will work for cutting dough. Good news, it does. Yes. The cat agrees. As does the pot of boiling water in the background, which is something you're going to need. Once these are stuffed and filled, we're going to boil them and then saute them, as is tradition. You can also rework the scraps when you're done. Just note that the pierogies are going to be a little tougher, and you won't be able to roll them out as thin. These are honestly maybe a little thick. That burnt-on cheese will stick. Okay, you get that many pierogies. You can count them for me. And if they're looking a little thick, you can roll them out before filling and shaping them. And a thing to be super careful about, this is pierogi tip from Pierogi Master me. Do not overfill your pierogies. They will explode. And you also crimp. And it's important, maybe zoom in a little bit, future me, is when you crimp, you always use the last one to start the next one. So it's like that last one goes to there, and goes to there, and this helps get you a good seal. I guess I forgot to mention that I also did the egg wash. I was too distracted from getting in the groove of making pierogies again. And there you go, a singular, poorly sealed, that's better, a singular pierogi. Now to do this like another 24 times. Yay! So now we take our delightful little dumplings and we boil them until they float to the top. I honestly don't have a time measurement for you. I'm sorry. And saute in butter, as is tradition. You'd also normally be cooking these alongside some onions, but we're going to be dousing them in sauce later, so the onions aren't really necessary. That one ended up a little funny shape. And there you have it, some lovely handmade pierogies that we are either going to ruin or enrich with American Chinese flavoring. Hooray! Sal's sauce, I'll be adapting a recipe from Binging with Babish, who adapted a recipe from J. Kenji Lopez Alt, who I'm sure adapted it from somewhere else because recipes are never completely original. Into 2 tablespoons of oil goes the white part of scallions and some garlic and some ginger. Saute for a minute. I also don't have the chili de arbol that Binging with Babish calls for. So I'm using some red pepper flakes, and I also put a little sriracha in the liquid portion, which will show up later. Here's the liquid portion. It's consisting of the ingredients you can see on the screen. And then we're going to stir this until thickened. Oh yeah, that's getting thick. Look at that. Oh yeah. Ooh. Yeah, how long is this supposed to cook for to thicken? I should have read that before getting too deep into this. Give me a second. And then the last thing to add, our pierogies. I'm giving these a light toss. Actually looks like it's going to be the appropriate amount of sauce for this. And top with our remaining scallion, which I have a lot of, but hey. If there's enough green on the plate, this whole meal counts as a vegetable, right? That's what I was taught by no one. To be perfectly honest, I don't know what you'd like to pair this with. I don't even know what utensil I should use for this, but I decided chopsticks would be funnier. Oh no. They're hard to pick up. They're slippery. There we go. Okay, well for starters, pretty much the only thing I taste is sauce. And that sauce tastes pretty good. The pierogies here are just kind of a vessel. A nuclear vessel. A nuclear vessel. A vessel for sauce is what I was trying to say before I got confused. Like, you don't get a sense of the filling, you don't get a sense of the dough. Pretty much all you taste is that sauce, but it's like nicely sweet and tangy. So I like the sauce. I'd say the sauce gets 9 out of 10. If I was trying to make General Tso's at home, I would make it again. For the pierogies, like, I make those at home already. They're amazing. I know that. So they get a 10 out of 10 just because I love them. But when you combine them together, let's try another one and find out. Here's my problem. Like, it tastes overall good, but the pierogies don't do anything for it. I put all this effort into making homemade pierogies for you guys, the audience, and for me, in my heart. But, you know, you can slather that sauce on anything that's anything, really. I was gonna say starchy, but no, proteins as well, vegetables, and it would still taste as good. Maybe if I had done a different filling. Either something cooling to balance out the spice of the sauce, or maybe something spicy to balance it out. I actually just bought kimchi today, and I thought about it, because I know we like our cabbage in our pierogies. I could have done that and added a third culture to this already confused plate. Because it's good, but it frustrates me on principle. It frustrates me because it's the equivalent of putting ketchup on something and you love ketchup. And so what the something it's on doesn't matter. Which is what I feel here. The pierogies don't matter. They're good pierogies, they're nice and toothsome, but they don't contribute anything to the dish. So maybe I'll dock 1 point from the sauce score and give it an 8 out of 10. Would do these dishes again separately in their own domains. But now I'm curious what other fillings might be good. If you have any ideas of how to improve the General Tso's pierogi to make it feel like the pierogi's not just an afterthought for sauce, let me know in the comments. I'm gonna think of more ideas while I chew on this and edit them in if any of them are good. You know, shrimp filling might actually be nice. Kind of the meat element to make this feel like more of a complete meal. what else might work? I don't know. It seems like I've come up with an idea for each pierogi I've eaten, so I better eat another one. So if you have any other suggestions for weird fusion cuisine, or just any idea that's just floating out there in the ether that you want to snatch out there and put in my comments section, let me know. And it'll probably be an episode because I said so. I'll probably finish this and feel confused the entire time. Thank you for watching. Look, it's a cat. They're just so slippery.